Hi guys, it's Sophie. So this is something that I've been excited to film for a little while now, and this is going to be part one of my around the world book hauls. I didn't know how many parts there were going to be, there's probably going to be a few, but what I thought I'd do is gather together the around the world ones into separate hauls to my regular monthly hauls, just because I think it's quite fun to do it like by country as well. So Foster's here. She is still being bitey, so yeah, trying to protect my books from her, but hopefully there'll be some stuff here that sounds interesting to you guys and gets you a bit excited for next year's challenge. So the first book I have is for Albania, and this one is Sworn Virgin by Elvira. This one was published by And Other Stories and was translated by Clarissa Botsford. The reason why I like this one is it's a bit of a like dual identity story. So it says that essentially there's one character who is simultaneously a student in sort of this city, living a relatively like westernised life, and like a racky drinking, chains making shepherd living alone in the mountains, and he's living this dual life. I think it sounds like it should be quite fun. Yeah, and I'm going to let you know all of the publishers for these and all the translators as well, because if you're looking for foreign and translated literature, there are certain publishers that are really good, so I'm trying to highlight those as well. And the next one is my pick for Argentina, and this one is Southeaster by Haroldo Conti, and this one was translated by John Lindsay Miles, and again this one is published by And Other Stories. This one sounds like a little bit of like an Argentinian The Old Man, the Sea. It's about an old elderly man who's working with a younger boy to cut reeds for basket weavers. And when the old man dies, the young boy has a chance to go and explore sort of the world and the river and himself. I think it's a gorgeous book and should hopefully be fun. The next one is non-fiction, and this is from Brazil, and this is Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. This is a very short non-fiction text around sort of what teaching looks like in oppression and in sort of governments and environments in which freedom is restricted. I bought this one a while ago, but it fits nicely into the challenge, and I wanted to try and get some non-fiction in there as well for me, so that I'm not purely reading fiction next year, just because of how much I do enjoy my non-fiction. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, and I think it's quite a core text really as well, so it'd be a good one to have read. And that one was translated by Mira Bergman Ramos, and this is a Penguin modern classic non-fiction text. And the next one is a really tiny book that's slightly cheating page length wise, but there are going to be a few I'm going to go over my page lengths, and I'm doing a few I'm going under 2. But this one is for Colombia, and this one is 17 Poisoned Englishmen by Gabriela Garcia Marquez, and these are I think 5 or 6 very short stories. I've not read anything by the author before, and I got this as kind of an introductory kind of piece for this author. There are a number of novels I think that fit within the word count too, so if I read this one really quickly I may well pick up another one by the same author as kind of a 2 for 1. But we'll see. I had this one on my TBR and thought it fitted nicely. And I'm afraid there's no translator noted in this edition that I can see. And the next book I have I don't know anything about, but my stepdad said this should be my pick for this country, so I trusted his recommendation. And for the Czech Republic, this one is The Festival of Insignificance by Milan, Kundera. As I say, I know nothing about this. I know that The Unbearable Lightness of Being is by the same author, but I don't know anything about it. It's again a really short one. This one was published by Faber and Faber. And the next one I have is for Finland, and this one is Letters from Klara and Other Stories by Tova Jansson, and this one is published by Sort of Books and translated by Thomas Teal. These are a number of, I think, realist short stories that are supposed to be quite slow and quite sort of gentle, I think, in their unweaving, and I really have a kind of character focus. I sort of found this author as the one that was most often recommended to me and put forward for Finland. So yeah, I've not read anything by them before, and I don't think I've read anything that's finished before, but yeah, I'm hoping I get on with this one. I think it'd be interesting to have some quiet short stories in translated fiction and just see how that comes across. And so the next book is my pick from Hungary. Similar to Finland, I knew I wanted to read something by this author, and it was just a case of figuring out which one I like the sound of most. And this one is The Last Wolf. I'm not going to be able to pronounce the author's name properly. It's definitely László, and I think it's Krasznahorkai. but that may well be completely wrong. Yeah, so this is a collection of 3 short stories which all focus around the element of a last wolf in some sense. So I think one is about someone writing about the last wolf in a species of wolves, but I think it's told in a really strange way. Yeah, it's told in a single rolling sentence. There's one of a trapper who's trying to kill the last of all the beasts, and one in which it is the same event but told from a different perspective of the event by people who've never been to the area before. So yeah, it just sounds like a really interesting thing. I quite like stories about wolves anyway, so I think this should be one that will be interesting to get into. Yeah, really excited for this one, and it says that it won the Man Booker International. Not sure what year that was in, but always bodes well, you know, you guys know I like the Man Booker. And The Last Wolf was translated by George Surtees and published by Serpent's Tail. And the next one is one that I picked up when I was in Stockholm. This is my pick for Iraq, and it's The Iraqi Christ by Hassan Blasim. And these are short stories again that are, I think, kind of mixing elements of the magical into otherwise realistic stories. So there's one where there's a man who sort of is exploring in the desert and finds a ghost in a trench, and who then won't leave this part of the town, and it's all kind of echoes of the Iraq-Iran wars and the subsequent wars with Iraq and the Allied forces, but told in like these short haunting stories. I thought it sounded really cool. It compares it to Kafka, and so there's this sort of subject is primarily trauma and the ways in which individuals react and respond to trauma. So that sounds really interesting to me, and again I'm really looking forward to exploring so many different short stories from all over the world. Yeah, so that's one I'm desperate to get to, maybe one of the first ones I pick up. And The Iraqi Christ was translated by Jonathan Wright, and it was published by Comma Press. And then the next one I have is from Italy, and this is one I stumbled across, but that sort of having researched it afterwards sounds really interesting and appealing. And this one is A Game We Play by Simona Vinci. Now this book, when it was published in Italy, gained a lot of attention but had quite a lot of controversy surrounding it, and it's easy to understand why. Now the translation seemed to have less of an effect here in the UK, but I'm interested to see sort of potentially if there's anything that tells about what classes as sensationalism and what classes as sort of, I guess, a macabre interest in Italian and English culture. That's what I'm hoping to get from here. So this essentially is about prepubescent children who are playing the sort of fairly harmless sexual games that children play with each other when they don't really understand what sex is, so the kind of playing doctor game that you hear quite a lot of. But this situation, which, as I say, ordinarily would be considered to be harmless, is fairly well turned on its head when one of the boys determines that he has something to show them, which turns out to be adult pornography. And it very much changes the tenor of this game. It was published under a different name in Italy. I can't remember what the title actually was in the original, but yeah, I have heard nothing about it before seeing it, but then sort of having read a little bit after, it sounds like something that I would like to kind of explore and find out. I guess find out why there was so little interest here, whereas there was so much furore in Italy. And this one was published by Vintage, and it was translated by Mina Proctor. And the next one I have is one from Mexico, and it's one that I've heard talked about on BookTube Preferred It, so you've probably heard of this one before. But it's Down the Rabbit Hole by Juan Pablo Villalobos, and this one was translated by Rosalind Harvey, and it's by And Other Stories. This is a story told by the son of a drug baron, and I believe it's about him trying to get a pygmy hippopotamus for his zoo, but it's also kind of showing like how the life of a child is influenced by the kind of strange and extravagant lives sometimes of drug dealing, and how a child might interpret that situation. I think it was Jean who spoke about this one, but I know I've heard someone talk about it and that they enjoyed it, so yeah. A little one again, but a couple of the others, that's the cat, a couple of the others have gone over the word limit, so yeah. And the next one I was really kindly sent for review by Scepter, and that one is Evening Primrose by Kopano Matlwa. This is a South African novel which just sounds so interesting and so up my street, and I saw it and just thought like that I definitely had to have it, and they're, as I say, kind enough to send me a review copy. The back of the book says, "Maybe this was all my own doing. I never should have started that petition. I never should have stopped my medication. I never should have daydreamed about Francois, I couldn't pronounce my name properly, and I shouldn't have written all of this blasphemous crap into a journal. Intriguing, I really like the cover, but the sort of press release that's accompanying it says that a harrowing and vital novel explores issues of race and gender through the eyes of a young doctor in our South Africa's public healthcare system. Yeah, I think it sounds absolutely fantastic. I'd not heard about it before, and I think it's a fairly new release. Yeah, 27th of July, so a really new release, and yeah, this is one I'm really looking forward to getting to. And the next one I have is a pick for South Sudan, and this one is Beneath the Darkening Sky by Mohak Tulba, and this one, ooh, has a receipt in it. Who is it translated by? I'm not sure, maybe it was written in English. It may have been written in English. It's published by One World, and this is the story of essentially child soldiers in South Sudan. I think the author himself wasn't chosen to go and fight. He was deemed to be too small, so they measure children against the size of the AK-47s, and if they're taller they get a gun and are taken, and if they're shorter then they stay behind. Now I think the author, from memory, is one of those who stays behind in his own life, but he tells the story of one of the boys who goes off to fight. This sounds absolutely harrowing, but yeah, I haven't read anything about child soldiers before, especially not by someone who is so close to that. So yeah, I think this one's going to be a hard read, but hopefully a really necessary one. I'm really pleased to have stumbled across it. It's published by One World, I think I said that already, and it was shortlisted for the Commonwealth Book Prize, so yeah, that's one I'm definitely looking forward to. And the next one is one that I've had for a little while and haven't got around to yet, and thought, you know what, actually I'd quite like to have it for next year. And this one is Landing by Liana Fabregas, and this one is about a woman who's travelling next to a man on an aeroplane, and he dies midway through the flight, and she takes something from him, and the book is written off the back of what she's taken from him. It's told in him and her sections, who I assume are the woman who's taken the box and the man who the box was, but I don't know. I don't know any more than that. It just sounds like a really strange setup, a really strange premise. I'm intrigued. I don't know if it's going to be like literary or mystery or what. I don't really understand what this is on the front, like this like burnt paper in her hand. Yeah, I think it just should be intriguing, and I kind of want to have a few that are kind of a little bit more surprising, I suppose, in there, so that I am not feeling trapped by the challenge, but instead I'm feeling like I have loads of choice and loads of really exciting things to get to. And the next one is one I felt really lucky to have stumbled across in a second-hand shop for near nothing, and it was one I was going to pick up anyway, and it is The Mimic Men by V.S. Nepal, and this is my pick for Trinidad and Tobago. This was the winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, and it kind of chronicles one man's journey from Trinidad and Tobago to the UK, and really it's a novel about sort of colonialism and the effects of colonialism. Now that's something that in England you don't learn a lot about in history, and I really want to learn more about that, and I think these novels, which I hope are going to be kind of like unapologetic, like you know, accounts, I guess, of the impact of colonialism, are something that I think will be valuable for me in this next year's reading. So yeah, we'll see how I get on with it, but one I'm looking forward to, and as I say, I felt really lucky to have stumbled across it for like near nothing in a charity shop, so yeah. I should say as well that one's published by Picador, and I can't find a translator in this edition. And the next two I have I was sent for review by Gargoslav Press, who focus on sort of Slavic translations, and they contacted me with a number of books, which I was really thankful for. I've been really lucky to have loads of publishers being interested in what I'm doing and getting involved in it, so that's great. And this one is my pick for the Ukraine, and it is The Fantastic Worlds of Yuri Vinichuk, and this one was published by Yuri Vinichuk. And these are short stories that sound, again, kind of slightly fantastical, and I don't know too much more than that. I'm really looking forward to all these short stories. I'm going to read you the beginning of the first one, just because I just think it's really intriguing and I automatically want to start reading. So the first one is called An Embroidered World. Inasmuch as I remember my grandmother, she was always sewing. At first I didn't pay attention to her embroidering, but one time I noticed that an old cherry tree that was growing near our window disappeared after Granny had embroidered it. The cherry tree completely dried up, and Gramps had planned on cutting it down several times, but for some reason his hands never seemed to get to it, but now it's gone. Like that just, I'm automatically like, I want to read more about the grandmother who embroiders things and they disappear. That sounds amazing. So yeah, I think again, like short stories are definitely going to be a staple of what I'm doing next year. And the next one, I think I'm going to be honest, I'm going to struggle to explain because there's so much in here. But this one is A Poet and Bin-Laden, and it's kind of tagged as a reality novel, and it's by Hamid Ismailov. And this is my pick for Uzbekistan, and I know nothing about Uzbekistan. So there are a few countries in the world that literally have like I know a few facts, but I have zero knowledge of, and Uzbekistan is one of them. This starts off just before 9/11 and goes through him watching 9/11 when he's away from his country, and then how the world focuses on Uzbekistan for seemingly the first time as the location where terrorism is born. And it's about sort of, I guess, partly what that country means to the author, or the individual who's a poet, and how Bin Laden affects the country. That sounds weird, and I'm sure I butchered that, but I think it sounds fascinating. This is on my to buy list, so I was really happy when they sent me a copy. Because yeah, it was one that I had on my TBR sort of before I was even doing the challenge, so I think it's going to be a big learning curve for me, this novel, but that is kind of the point of this year, is to push myself and get outside of my comfort zone and outside of my comforting normal sort of countries that I'm used to, I guess, and explore other people's lives. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I'm a little bit daunted. And then the last one I have for this first haul is my pick for Yemen, and this is a very short little novel called A Land Without Jasmine. It's published by Garnet Publishing, and it's by Mujida Al-Ahdal, and it was translated by William Maynard Hutchins. This is a story about a woman who is absolutely stunning, and she kind of wanders around Yemen with a kind of horde of men who are watching after her and lusting after her, and one day she vanishes, she disappears, and it's kind of a story about her disappearance and about the mystery surrounding where she's gone, and also about the way in which society reacts to the disappearance of this woman, and the kind of stories that go up about sort of her sexual depravity and her lack of morals and all of the kind of things that just arise and kind of come out of this vanishing of her, all the things that fill her gap almost. Yeah, I have never read anything from Yemen before. I've never seen anything else from Yemen actually, and I bought this one a little while ago, but this is definitely again one of the ones I'm really looking forward to next year. So those are the first 17 novels that I have for my Around the World challenge. There's going to be a fair few of these hauls yet to come. There's 190 odd countries, so yeah, that's definitely by no means the end. Hopefully that's been interesting, seeing a few of the countries I have to start off with. I have a few more that are on my way at the minute, but it'll probably be a couple months. I'm going to gather these together in sort of larger bunches rather than just doing them every single month. But yeah, let me know if there's anything in there that you think sounds particularly interesting. Let me know if there's anything in there that you've read that could be interesting, but no spoilers. I want to keep next year like spoiler free if I possibly can. And I'll chat to you guys soon in my next video. Bye!